One. Hello and welcome to another special episode of Open Floor with Nihshank. And today I'm a little excited because this is a special edition of what we are shooting. I know I've been on and off for a while now, but I have a very special guest, which is Mehak. Mehak is the legal head and general counsel for GE Vernova's hydropower division in APAC. And people who have been watching, they know that I have a formal introduction prepared. It's written down. So we'll go with first with that, and then we'll see what Mehak has to say. So Mehak essentially is the legal head and general counsel for GE Vernova's hydropower division in APAC, boasting over 16 years of expertise. Mehak crafts and executes legal strategies, facilitating seamless business operations and dealing negotiations. She ensures alignment with organizational goals, fosters collaborative partnerships with law firms across APAC, and champions diversity within GE Vernova's global women network. Mehak's accolades include negotiating a $113 million deal, fostering business growth, and resolving a $28 million dispute. Her leadership and commitment to inclusion have earned her multiple leadership awards. I think all the viewers who watched today will join us in welcoming Mehak as we anticipate her valuable insights. Mehak, just to put it across and start on this note, the student community here is already calling you a legal wizard, and this is this is no small feat. I mean, 16 years of experience, and the field that you do. For people who do not understand how this functions, because most of the people that are pursuing, especially like pursuing law here, they're more aligned to a certain like sector of what we can say as a career. Let's say just specific commercial disputes, or let's say corporate, general corporate for that matter. But here I see you are a arbitrator, you are a mediator, correct me if I'm wrong, and you also are championing causes for diversity within the setup itself. Can you tell me what your work looked like in like on a day-to-day basis?
Crisis oriented.
Okay.
Always. Every day is different, and contrary to what people would believe, that in-house work can get very mundane. It's not mundane at all. There is a stark difference between what you would do in a law firm versus what you would do in-house. As far as my day goes, I think you get up in the morning, the first thing that you do is you check your emails and see which part of the country is blowing up in your face, and you take it from there. There are some regular meetings, there are some not so regular meetings, and you take it as it goes, and you don't know when your day is going to end.
Okay. Okay, no, yeah. Essentially, this is something that, whenever I bring in someone from the corporate field, they say this, and it seems like a part and parcel. But heck, one very interesting thing you initially itself put out, right? There is a lot of difference, and that is something I think even the aspirants would want to know, because a lot of people don't have a clear picture of even how the in-house counsel ka jo work hai. And we'll also switch in Hindi and English, like I was saying to you, मेरी audience Hindi bhi, if you're comfortable with it. We can switch to at times to Hindi as well. But there is a clear difference. So how does it like? What does it look like in terms of जब आप in-house काम कर रहे हो? Is the work more diverse, or is the work more specialized compared to someone who's a partner, let's say at a corporate firm, and is dealing with a particular dispute area? If you could shed some light on that.
So the work is very different. In a company, I have one client. My only client is my company. With a law firm, you will have multiple clients simultaneously. So as a company, I will be more invested in what I'm doing. I will understand the nuances of the business much better. I will understand the risk appetite of the business much better. I will have a more proactive approach towards my work versus in a law firm, which is going to be reactive. Because it's जब मैं law firm के पास जाऊंगी, उनको बताऊंगी मुझे इस चीज पे सलाह चाहिए, वो मुझे तभी देंगे. But in-house, I will always try to prevent something from happening first. It will still, something or the other still may come up, but you will always try. So that is the main difference.
Okay. Perfect. No, thank you so much for that. And I think that sort of comes out with respect to, the work that is especially done by in-house counsels. Mehak, I do want to get into the aspects of gender, but not specifically to say so. And this is more of a question from a, perspective of a girl. One of the aspirants, Kushi, asks this. So her essential question is that how is it, do you feel that firstly, is there any sort of is it a male dominated area? Law in general is what we're talking about. And if any, can you share your own journey as to where you started from, and being here right now doing everything? I don't think you're leaving anything out, especially at this point. I see you active on LinkedIn. You were there on the, I think you were there on the roundtable discussion by JSA and Baker McKenzie. And then on the other hand, I see you keep posting about different events, different sort of conferences that you're doing, and at the same time you're also an in-house counsel. So this is really inspirational for a lot of people who are especially trying to pursue this as a career. What would you share from your reflections of the journey, some of the key moments, if you could please?
So I think I'll break the question into a couple of parts. First would be regarding the diversity of women in the profession. I don't think there's any dearth of women now in the legal field. There are very many. You will see very many. But if you're going to talk about my specific sector, which is of renewables, I think there could be more of an inclusion of women. I think it is still lacking, but it's getting better. My company is an anomaly in that case, because I have a team full of women with only one male member. So globally, that's how we're structured. But yeah, it definitely can improve. And what was your next? Okay, the career progression. So I don't know about the key moments, but I think it may be relevant for people to know how everyone has their own journey. So when I started law school, when I actually gave my law exam, it was a fluke, because I was in college. I'd finished 1 year and I felt that I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, and so I just decided to go give my papers. I cleared them. I went to law school and I thought that this is not what I want to do. Then in third year, I interned with Pepsi, and I met the current mentor of mine. His name was VR Shankar, and he was the vice president legal. I worked with him and he made me change my perspective. And I suddenly felt that, okay, this is what I want to do now. That's when I decided that I'm going to be an in-house counsel. Then I joined a law firm. I worked with a law firm for 7 years. I had my first baby girl, and I used to work in Delhi while I was staying in Gurgaon. So it was a very long commute. I mean, I used to go while she was sleeping, and by the time I used to come back, she was sleeping. So I realized I have to change my job. At that time, it was not so simple to get to make a switch from a law firm to in-house. They wanted prior in-house experience, which I did not have. And GE came along, but it was a very, very restricted profile. It would mean downgrading my entire experience. In fact, when I gave the interview, my interviewer told me that you're overqualified for this position. And I convinced her somehow that, I will do it. And the role essentially was just reviewing non-disclosure agreements globally, nothing else. It was just that. After 7 years of experience, that's all that it was. But I had to take that leap of faith. I felt that I need to just get in. I will make my way up. And 9 years, 5 awards, here I am.
No,
So
that's fantastic, Mehak. And on a lighter note, I don't think there is anything else. I think you're overqualified for most of the jobs currently in the country,
no,
especially
you're
in
being
your
kind.
area. But
You're being kind.
no, but I understand that. I think that is something very important. I had a uh, I had Professor Sana Javed sort of come up here, and she talked about how she was trying to balance between corporate firms, and then eventually why she took her role as a professor. And then I see this perspective of yours when you have your baby child, you decide to take a step back, and then you're like, it's fine, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done, and then you still maintain your position. And I think the awards are, the awards don't, in fact, ultimately describe everything. Mehak, I mean, my team does a lot of research, so kudos to the team. But I have essentially have gone on to see what other people have written about you, the kind of recommendations you've had just on your LinkedIn profile in general. And apart from that, there is some sort of information available about you, throughout, and that is really sort of inspiring in the sense as to how and I think as a law student, at some point, a lot of us are unsure of what we don't want to do. So that honesty that you had in your answer, especially about the fact that, in first year, I was like, do I even want to do this once and then thank you for giving a shout out to your mentor. We'll mention his name, especially in the description once this video goes out on YouTube. But Mehak, okay, so I understand this is one aspect to it, and you decided to stay in this company, and then 9 years later you say that. But what I want to especially understand is that you have a very specific area of work. Like you said, that the profile was very restricted, and energy and my initial sort of conversation was also around this point that energy or natural resources, or like the fact that you're dealing in these areas, is not something very common. At least in a law school, I don't think there is a lot of focus on these specific areas, because you have those same company law and arbitration and all that, the basic essentials that are there, like with respect to passing out the Bar Council exam of India. So how did this decision of ultimately choosing this such a specific sector take place? And did it just have to do with your mentorship, or were you interested you know in
So in G also, I had another mentor when I joined. Her name is Tejal Patil,
okay.
who is now the general counsel of Wipro. So even then, actually, when I joined on a retainership basis. So I wasn't a permanent employee because they didn't have a position for a permanent employee. And if you see my experience profile, I've done various businesses within GE. That was because I was a retainer, so I moved about, which I think was a great thing because I got a world view of what GE really does and how it does it and various business nuances. Finally, in 2019, I got the opportunity to move to Renewables, which I said yes to. Okay. And that's how the journey for that began. And that's when I took on a permanent role as well. So yes, I started out by doing onshore and hydro. Then I got solar as well in my kitty. And then I gave up onshore because there was a lot of hydro work. Then I also took on Europe. And then I had to raise my hands and say that I can only do APAC at one point in time, because it was half the globe was a little difficult to manage. So yeah.
No, that's true. No, Mehak, are you planning to leave anything else to anybody? Is also was going to be my next question. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, okay. So this is very essential. Like you said, you added this to your kitty. But the point being that you're also an arbitrator, and like you said, like I said earlier, we are here calling you the legal wizard. I also sort of want to call you the monetary wizard. I looked at the negotiation sort of $1 million negotiation settlement claims that you're essentially there. Firstly, as a this is also a little more towards the charming part of it. What does it feel like to sit in a room like this? How's the process? And if you could shed some light on this. And given that a large amount of money is involved, I think the stakes are much higher. I'm not saying that any settlement for that matter might matter to somebody a lot, and doesn't mean that some things, some settlement is much lesser and some things much higher. But essentially, being involved in such a high stakes settlement, what is it like? What does it feel? I mean, if you could just elaborate on that. Yeah.
I think negotiation is an art. It requires a lot of practice and perseverance. It's not meant for everybody. And it's not like it cannot be worked upon. When I say it's not meant for everybody, it means that you will have to develop your skill.
Right.
I can possibly give you a couple of tips that would come handy. One would be the law of indirect effort, which I personally rely on, which is really that anything that you try to do indirectly will reap more benefits other than you trying directly, which in a negotiation context really just means that if you were to push to what you want directly in a negotiation, you will get a pushback from the other side. So you need to open up. You need to be able to show to the other side that you're trying to find a way for them and for their interests. That's when they will open up and try to come to a middle ground with you. So that's really important. The idea is to have a win-win and not a win-lose. The idea is to win more of your interests in the transaction rather than winning all the arguments in the deal. So that's a very, very clear distinction. The other also is you need to understand where is it that you need to invest more energy. It's like the 80-20 rule. The last 20% of your negotiations will decide 80% of your outcome.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
the first 80%, you're going to discuss minuscule issues, and you'll keep on saying yes and no, and you'll push back, and those issues are not so important. It's the last 20% is what's going to matter.
Right. So, okay, I will not get into the confidential details of certain things, but from a real life setting, since you've been involved in, these negotiation processes in law school, there is something called Getting to Yes. It's a book, and that is essentially that is taught to us for negotiation, and but in general, like you're saying, this 80-20 rule, how does it look like in practicality? Especially, let's say, if you have ever faced a scenario when the other party is really driving a hard negotiation, and you're more of in a conflict situation wherein the way things should pan out for either of the parties, it is not going so. So what is your mantra then? Like, what would you do in such a situation?
So typically, if you enter a negotiation, the first half
I think we lost you. Just
of the day is going to be extremely slow. Go past it. You just will not. It's only in this.
Mehak, sorry to interrupt
Is your connection
you. I think,
unstable?
yeah, it's a little, perfect now. Please go on.
Perfect now?
Yeah.
So it's the second half of the day, more so the evening, that your negotiation pace is going to pick up. The decisions will be more easier because I think everyone is worn out by then. So that's the rule you must know. Second is how to deal with it. Look, you will have to, there is a lot of emotional intelligence, emotional agility that is required in situations of this kind. You will have to know the pulse of the other side. You will have to know how to choose your battles, because if the other side is a hard negotiator, if you also keep on pushing back with the same gusto, it's not going to work.
Right.
So you will have to choose your battles. There is something called the MIT that you should have prepared when you go in for the negotiation, which really is your M is your must have, your I is your ideally have, and your T is your trade-offs. So you should have that prepared. And you should know where to push the buttons and where not to push the buttons. And also it depends on which side of the table are you on, what does your bargaining power look like. So if you're on a lesser ground, again, you will have to really pick. And if the power dynamics are on your side, then yes, then you can be a little more liberal with pushing back.
Right. No, definitely. And thank you so much for those insights. I think everyone who's, especially a law student, should take out their notebooks and at least know these pointers. We can use it at least in our negotiation competitions. Also, by the way, which you were invited to being judges for the, I saw you for a couple of posts were about how, you were invited to be a judge. So essentially, I don't think there's anything that you've sort of left, not just in your field. But okay, one very interesting aspect of your profile was that you bring in collaborations with law firms for APAC. Now, how does that sort of pan about? So essentially, you're great at networking, clearly. Because while we were even, and just a little insight from our conversation, while we were even dealing with, you were like, this is my sort of target audience. So you have everything clear in your head कि मुझे तो ये चाहिए और ये ऐसे होना चाहिए. But how do you sort of facilitate this sort of a collaboration, and how does that go about, especially for people who are trying to bring other people on board?
Sorry, can you rephrase that question? I'm not very sure
Okay,
what you're asking me.
so essentially, a large part of your work also is about how you have established collaborative partnership with law firms, right? That is across APAC. So what I'm essentially trying to understand is that you understand the importance of networking opportunities really well. And that is something I think that as a skill, as any student or as any professional, someone can incorporate. So how do you use that, or how do you use that as a leverage to essentially establish these collaborations, whether it's with law firms or with the right people? How do you sort of bring in about that network?
So, look, networking is really important. And I think I realized that very late in my life. There are a lot of ways to leverage it. In networking, it's always a give and take. You will give some, you will take some. And you have to be able to identify as to how you're going to help other people so that they can help you. And one very dear friend told me that your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and these collaborations help because as an in-house counsel also, you always need competitive courts. You're working towards legal budgets. So you need to know people. You need to have a good rapport with them to get the best deals from them, to be able to get the best work out of them. So yeah, these collaborations help a lot in that sense.
Right. Absolutely. No, thank you for that, Mehak. And Mehak, we'll get to a little bit of the theoretical part of things also. Like, we're obviously, most of the questions are directed here on skill building, and whether it's the MIT rule that you stated or the 80-20. At least I have sort of embedded most of those in my own collection. But I wanted to understand. So you are an arbitrator, you are a mediator, and arbitration is something that is taught to us. A lot of us find it really attractive, in terms of career goals also. But how does it sort of pan about, especially from law school? Like, so essentially, when you're being taught, and I think this is a question that a lot of people had. And when I circulated your poster, I think in the comments that we had over Instagram, one of this question was the most highlighted. A lot of people reacted to it, so I'll essentially put it out. So they are essentially trying to figure out as to what their career choice should be. Now you have obviously, there is your hard work, and then you've talked about mentors, and you stuck to the profession, you didn't give up. But what about people who are sort of trying to figure out and cannot get themselves fixated? First part of the question, on one particular platform. Let's say I like competition law also. Let's say I like arbitration also, for that matter, and I'm finding a merger and acquisitions also interesting. Like, in a subset of these things, how do I sort of streamline, identify, and then choose that as my career? Like, how should I know that ab ye isme meri career ban sakti hai? This is something that I can do for my life.
So look for that. There are some law firms that have this process of rotations for freshers. Like Cyril Amarchand, what they do is when you join as a fresher, they will make you switch into various departments every 3 months till you finally so that they'll do, I think, for about a year.
Okay.
And then you can decide which team would you want to be in. So I think that's a great way of you being able to find your feet. As far as in-house is concerned, yes, you do not have any such opportunity. So my suggestion would be that you pick the sector that interests you the most.
Okay.
And it's all right if you like competition today and you think you're interested in mergers and acquisitions the year after. You can't put so much of pressure on yourself to know exactly what you want to do immediately when you get out of college. It's not going to happen. There will be some people who will get a PPA. There will be some people who join their internships and they'll know what they want to do.
Right.
But others may not. And that's okay. And because even I knew that I wanted to go in-house, but I did not know what I wanted to do in-house. I just wanted to go in-house because maybe I found that that
More
life more interesting.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it was a really rude shock when I went from a law firm in-house, even though I wanted to do it, because the working is very different. It is extremely, extremely different as to how you go about your day versus in a law firm. You know, I in fact feel that the scope of a burnout is more in an in-house role than in a law firm, because in a law firm you will be focused on one deal at one time. But in in-house role, you are switching from one role to the other in the same day, 1 hour after the other. You could be managing a crisis, and the next hour you could be dealing with a litigation strategy. In the next, you could be, you know, planning salaries. It's just a lot of varied work in the same day. So you're kind of switching emotionally, mentally, constantly.
Right. No, that's true. And essentially, I mean, there is some sort of, I think, misconception about a lot of the posts, or lot of the people is, I think they go on to believe that in-house work somehow is more laid back, and that is something I think that people have with time clarified. You know, people say that मुझे firm में काम नहीं करना है. So people who watch it in other language also, essentially that if I don't want to work in a firm, maybe in-house is the place for me. But I don't think that is essentially how you should make your choice. And that's, I think that is very succinctly and well put by Mehak. I think do what interests you the most. And I think it's important to let things take their course. It's important to figure out things, give it that time. So that is something that's very important in what you're sharing, Mehak. But Mehak, with your own experience, and you know, a lot of people here are first generation lawyers. It's not like
Me
they
too.
have. Oh, okay. Then this question is perfect, because this will make a lot of sense even more. And Mehak, being where you are, okay, I've been constantly emphasizing this. It's in all, I think I'm put it in all humility itself. I'm just being very humble. There are a lot of things which I think if I had to do just in the intro, I could literally brag about Mehak Oberoi here sitting as a guest. But Mehak, apart from whatever you have accomplished, do you feel that as a first generation lawyer, there is some sort of a you know, like there's some sort of a leverage that exists for other people that you feel is not out there? Or you know, it's like it's okay at the end, it's all hard work, or it's all skill? And like, just in your case, you're a fantastic example of how far you have come with life. So a lot of people feel that, you know, let's say even for internships, sorry to elaborate so much on the question, I'm also first generation in that sense, but I sort of do other things, not exactly law as the career. But essentially, a lot of the people here feel that, you know, in the first year also, they're not getting those big tier one internships, or they're not landing those things which is obviously available to someone who's already you know, well to do off. So you think this comparison sort of plays out, or with time it just fades away and it doesn't really matter?
Initially, it matters. It matters. Like, I did not have anyone to guide me as to what I need to do. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have a clue whether I should join litigation or law firm or, you know, in-house, and how to go about it, how to figure out a job for myself. And I was an average student. I was not, you know, one of the top 10 or anything. I was an average student. So in fact,
It's hard to believe that, but okay, go
no,
on.
but I was very
Yeah.
much. And when in fact, the law firms that come in for placements, I did not get picked up by any. I got some job in Bombay, and I don't even remember, but um, it was one of those LPOs that had come about at that time.
Okay.
I'd got a job with them.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I took it, but I never joined. And I came back to Delhi. I managed to get a job over here in a law firm. I started working with Kocher and Company.
Okay.
And then, you know, from them, I think progressed. But yeah, I mean, I had no support. I had absolutely no direction. So yes, it matters. If my father or my grandfather was in this industry, they would be able to tell me, plus there would be contacts, so they would put me in the right direction. Of
Okay.
course, your talent also matters.
Right.
But at least they would nudge me in some direction. Here I was just like this headless chicken. I didn't know where to go.
No, absolutely. And I think, right, you're absolutely right to the part that, eventually it might phase out. But initially, that backing,
Yeah.
or even for that matter, the direction, I think it's not even just about getting those internships to have that, like I'm having this conversation with you. And a lot of law students who might or might not benefit from this, but the fact that I can ask these questions from their on their behalf or whatever, at least gives me that understanding. And thank you so much for this reason in itself, to coming on the show, because I think a lot of people would have a lot of clarity, especially about in-house counsel roles, and the way they've gone on to sort of uh, deal in whichever career areas they sort of want to. But it does, I thank you also for being very honest about it. I also do feel that there is, to some extent, it does matter, but eventually, like in your case, I think you're a great example of that. It does phase out. Mac, one very important question that sort of stems in my mind from all these conversations is that, given that you are a mediator, you are an arbitrator, and someone who's especially in the last year of the law school, there is a lot of, like you just mentioned, that I didn't land a placement from any of these, and there is a lot of works about landing a day zero, and getting into day one, and then landing a big tier one firm and whatnot. Do you what To what extent do you think these things actually matter? Firstly, secondly, is this the area that we should focus on? I had a partner come on the show once, and he essentially told me, Nishank, if I were to give you an advice, even as a law student, if I were to even advise my younger self, he said that I would just say focus on building your skill, because if you know the work, the right people, the right firm will eventually find you. Don't run behind tier ones. Don't run behind, chasing those fancy names. If you know the work, you will know you will know the people, you'll know the firm. Do you agree with this line of reasoning, or do you think that?
I think partially. Look, there's nothing wrong with getting a PPO on day zero.
Yeah, yeah,
It's great. You'll get picked up, and it's a great thing on your CV, and you'll move on from there. So your market value just increases from there. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing, but you shouldn't also get disheartened if it doesn't happen. One thing that you need to learn is that the journey is going to be different from everybody. The timing is not going to match. If you were with me in college at the same time, it doesn't mean you and I, our career paths would be exactly the same. It would be different. The journey will always be different. You're an individual, I'm an individual. So you have to accept that.
right, right. No, and no, that's there. But essentially, like, do you think? My essential point here to derive on is that whether, let's say, even when we are choosing our internships, what is it that matters the most? Should we be aiming to get into those tier one firms, land the placement, if we get the opportunity, or is it about learning the work more, and you do that in whatever space or capacity you can?
Okay. Okay, maybe I didn't get your question right. I would suggest if it's an internship, you should do it in a medium-sized firm, or even a boutique firm, because if you're looking at learning qualitative work, it's going to come from there. A large law firm is not going to give you the kind of exposure a medium-sized or a boutique firm is going to give you. It's very
Absolutely.
different.
Right, and I think
Because
the
they don't have so much of expertise, so they want somebody to take the load off, right? So you definitely will get much more exposure than you would in a top tier firm.
Right, right. Mac, okay, and thank you for this sort of clarification, and also the fact that I think these things are very subjective. Like you're saying, it varies from people to people. I don't think there is one box fits all, one shoe fits all kind of a situation. But Mac, what is your perspective? So a lot of people here obviously also think of doing an LLM. That we have a lot of universities that come in as tie-ups, and then we think about taking the pathway program, and then probably going into jobs or for placement for that matter. Do you think LLM really helps from the perspective of practical application, or does it really help increment your chances also of landing better job opportunities, or is it really for people who just want to go ahead and
So
get into
I'm not an
academics?
LLM.
Okay.
I haven't done my LLM. I haven't. But I do think that if you want really a niche area, So for example, maybe international arbitration or something. If you decided on your niche, then LLM could be a good option because then you pursue that path itself. So if you know your niche, then you do your LLM. And if you don't, you wait till you get to know your niche. And then if you'd like to pursue a master's, you should.
Okay, so essentially nothing wrong with doing an LLM, but I think like getting your
Know
specific
your niche, because
yeah.
because the thing is it's going to build on your expertise, right? So you can't just randomly go and do anything you want, because the masters should come into use, right?
Right. Right. No, that's true. That's true. Mac, also one very important it sort of leads on to the part about LLM in itself. So you, like had initially said when you became a mom, you were like this much of traveling is something I cannot afford at this point of time, and so let's just go about it. There is a huge UN cry here. And I don't think there are any subtle ways to put it. Like you also said, sometimes I don't have time. There is this lot of debate about work life balance, and is work in itself a very important part of life? Do you believe these concepts do exist, and if yes, then how do you sort of pan out into the
Look, I think each to his own. For me, my work is very important to me, but I do not believe in the concept of work-life balance per se. I'll tell you the concept that I really believe in, because the kind of jobs we're in, I'm not one to speak for a law firm necessarily because I'm not with one anymore. But with mine, it becomes difficult when you're working with different time zones, etc., to keep a work-life balance per se. What I do try is maintaining some work-life integration. And what that really means is that, contrary to what work-life balance would mean, that you're trying to establish some sort of equilibrium in all aspects of your life. Work-life integration would be more like weaving in all of the aspects of your life together for seamless efficiency. So, for example, my calendar today would have everything mapped out in it, including my personal commitments. So if I have to go to my daughter's school today, that's mapped as my personal time. I'm going to be away. And then there are meetings, and then there's lunch or whatever. And then there's the lunch is pretty much a working lunch always. I try to carve out dinner time with my children. So, you kind of, that gives you a little bit of more flexibility. That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, if you think that you can do a 9 to 5 job, then you need a government job. It's not going to happen anywhere else.
No, okay, yeah. Thank you so much. I really like how honest you are with your answers. You're like, "Bhai, dekh lo, ye to aise hi hoga." So, that is something that I really sort of admire. But okay, so you are involved in a lot of leadership roles, and this is for people essentially who are wanting to do team building exercises a lot. Mehak, what is it that separates a good leader from a ordinary one? There are a lot of teams that are formed, especially I think teamwork is something that becomes very important, especially if you're working in either a corporate firm or even in-house for that matter. That team, channeling the right out of every person, channeling their energy in the right direction is something that is sort of very important. What is the leadership sort of tips that the leadership expert Mehak Oberoi would give to?
um, I think one very important one would be that maybe there'll be a couple of tips rolled into one, but try not to criticize people. Catch them doing the right things. There is this book by Ken Blanchard called Well Done. It talks about
Well
catch
done.
people doing the right things.
Okay,
It
okay.
talks about that, which basically is that concentrate on what they're doing right versus what they're doing wrong. Because essentially what matters is not what you think of them, but what they think of themselves. So even if you think that you're right, you need to let them save face. And you cannot always be right. You will be wrong. In fact, there is this speech that was given by Theodore Roosevelt at one point in time when he was the president of the United States, where he said that if 75% of my decisions can be right, I will reach the highest measure of my expectations. So that was the highest measure of expectation for one of the world's most powerful men, 75% of the time. That's it. And research shows that if you're right 55% of the time, you can go down Wall Street and make $1 million a day. So if you cannot be right 55% of the time, who are you to say that the other is wrong? So yeah, I think the most important principle is that, and let me tell you, it's very difficult to do. I struggle with it even today. It becomes when you're so caught up in the hustle bustle of your work every day, you're stressed, you need to get deals done. It's really difficult not to point fingers. It's extremely difficult, and I think I struggle with it on a daily basis, but I have to remind myself that it needs to be done. As long as you have a sounding board in office who you can say that, oh my God, this guy really needs training. He needs to get it right. But otherwise, try not to do it to their face.
Okay. Now, that might be one of the best answers we've had on both or all the seasons that I have done so far. Especially the way you, the way you pointed out that I don't know how people think of themselves, but the fact that 55% of the time, if you were right, you would make $1 million on Wall Street every day is something that's crazy. It's a crazy.
I read it in a book. I read it in a book and I was really surprised. And I actually questioned myself, I can't be right 55% of the time. Is that really true? Am I that dumb? But yeah, that's what it is. That's life.
No, that's an amazing insight, Mehak, on a more serious note, especially the fact that the way you put out the idea that it's not what you see of themselves. Obviously, not given a fact that if someone just needs training and doesn't know stuff, then that's an entirely different scenario altogether. But the fact of how they see themselves. And that sort of is very important for even their confidence building. Only then can they, I think, perform to the best of their abilities and contribute in a manner that
they say that you need 3 positive comments to dissipate the impact of 1 negative comment. So that's how careful you have to be if you want them to perform.
Mac, I have thought of something. So what I'll do is that there are a lot of quotes in this interview. I am going to put that down on the description, and I'm going to say said by Mehak Oberoi.
No, these are not said by me.
No, but on my show. On my show, and in the disclaimer, we'll write this is from this book, this is from that book. No, but it's amazing. All the one-liners are really good, and it all of a sudden leaves a very good impact. No doubts about why you being invited everywhere, and you're absolutely ruling the sessions. But Mehak, I personally don't want this conversation to end, but I understand that you have your own commitments. One very and probably my last sort of question, and then we can move to the end of this particular show. But people who want to pursue your sector specifically and who are students of today, what is that one advice that you would give them, apart from the fact that obviously they have to read the books and they have to learn more about the area? What is that essential factor that would make them even a good counsel, or for that matter something that you're dealing with, it would lead them or believe it would give them that belief that this is the area that they can really do, is in special reference to your sector, like particularly to your sector?
You have to be able to manage very complex projects. So that is something you'll have to be prepared for. I'm not taking down other industries, but it is not, it's not as simple as just selling one product. It's a lot of things that are coming together. So you have to be very sure that you're confident that you will be able to manage complex projects and the stress of that. And with respect to building your skill, I am not very sure if colleges are right now concentrating on this particular sector. So I think there are a lot of trainings available, experts in this sector are conducting. So those kind of give a very good overview of how a project would function. So if you attend 1 or 2 of those trainings, it will help you decide whether you can handle that kind of complexity or not.
Right. So essentially maybe working on projects similar to this, or doing role building, exercises like this.
Yeah, I mean, or join a law firm which does renewable work. That is one option. Doing some training is an option.
Okay.
Pick up an EPC contract and read it. You'll know the complexities involved, and you can figure whether you want to do it or not. And when I started this out, I did not. Even when I started this out, I said I don't want to do such complex work. I don't want my mind to be fried. I can't. There's just so many links that you're making all day long, that this is what was in that contract and this is in this contract. So how do you, manage to prevent the dispute or make sure you get the right case merit for a dispute? So I didn't want to, but then I fell in love with it. So see, I mean, after I don't know how many, 2000, so but after 11 years is when I joined Renewables, and I wasn't sure till 1 year into it. So if I can also take that kind of time, it's okay for you to find your feet whenever you have to. It will come to you. Your sector will choose you eventually.
Right. Disclaimer. Essentially, the whole point is that, guys, don't be so worried. Itna bhi tension mat lo. And you can sort of, if you watch the show, if you have questions in a very cordial and peaceful manner, and only to a professional handle, you can, I think, Mehak, if it's okay with you, they can reach out to you for questions and clarifications that they have, either on the post or, if they want any advice or feedback. Thank you so much for that also.
Don't share my number.
No.
Don't share my number.
Your number is not going out. That is why I said your specifically professional social media profile. Dare I share your number, man? I won't be doing that. But that is it. That is essentially all the questions. So thank you so much for this. It was a very light-hearted discussion, but your one-liners were really I think they were the highlight of the show. I'll try and put the title something along those lines. And I think that is it. Thank you so much for gracing the show with your presence. And if you would like to add anything towards the end, this is essentially the concluding part of the show. And this is the part where most people say good things about me. So we put it, highlight it, edit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But any message that you have, anything that you want to share, this is the concluding part, and then we'll close off the show for today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a great platform that you've given to young budding lawyers to be able to expand their horizon and understand, or maybe just get a glimpse of what various sectors and functions look like. It will at least give them some inkling of what they may want to do. And I guess that's about it.
Perfect. I'd request the editors to just edit this part and put it in the beginning of the show. No, thank you so much, Mehak. It was wonderful hosting you. And I hope people really find this helpful. I think these were the questions that they had, even the questions that came up to my mind in the discussion of it. And guys, one more very important thing, Mehak was answering all of this on spot. There is no script that I gave to Mehak, ye puchenge hum and you have to answer. So kudos to you for that also, Mehak. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you.
I'll just stop the recording.